It's easy to get lost in all the arguments since the courts quashed the Fed's approval of the Trans Mountain Pipeline. So here are 3 really important points that keep getting lost. First, this court decision wasn't about stopping a pipeline or even stopping the Alberta oil sands. It was about rights, human rights. The judge decided Canada didn't respect the rights of First Nations. The feds would essentially have a meeting with the First Nation affected by the proposed pipeline, write down their gripes, and go back to Ottawa. You might think that if this pipeline is so important to the national interest,
absolutely in the national interest. In the national interest. This pipeline is in the national interest, and it will be built.
That our representatives would have taken their job extra seriously. But the judge found that their role was that of note takers. Second, the Trans Mountain Pipeline decision deals with animal rights. Canada hasn't given nature rights, at least they haven't yet. But what the Species at Risk Act basically says is that animals have at least the right to exist, to not be driven extinct. The Federal Court of Appeal found that the National Energy Board and the federal government did not properly take into account the rights of orcas to not be driven to extinction, specifically the southern resident killer whales, who are in real trouble. Lastly, Canada's courts are way ahead of Canada's government when it comes to protecting these rights and taking reconciliation seriously. It's the courts that keep insisting that governments respect First Nations rights. And First Nations have been on a big winning streak in Canadian courts for decades. This was legal win number 264 for Indigenous peoples. From the Northern Gateway Pipeline to Trans Mountain, the government just keeps failing to respect human rights, and it's the courts that keep them in check. None of this means that the pipeline is necessarily dead. The courts just showed how the government can go back and do a better job. But reconciliation is up to all of us and our elected governments. And what the Trans Mountain decision showed us is that even on a top priority issue, the government still have a long way to go to making reconciliation a reality.